It's April 15th, 2023. I watched yesterday by accident. I came across a frightening movie about a different world, a different lifestyle, a different group of people that exist. It seemed more than just moving pictures. In a respectful way, hard to figure out where the storylines change from a fictional reality that exists beyond these lands and then what exists here. I saw I call him an American actor because he's in the American movie business at box office. And again, he's referred to in this area under the umbrella of Disney as God Thor, love and lightning. So he brings significance to my world, if only by symbolic gesture. And I saw him in a very different role this time, put directly in harm's way. Something I take very seriously and I take to heart. I heard him speak words of another tongue. And then I heard a different population of people speak back. And then, of course, my automatic was Tika. Did he say Tika? And then I had to look for the English translation of Tika. And then all of a sudden, I went to my real world. Now, even though this place says Kimberly, and I don't want to get in a fight with nobody but my own image at the moment. And is it a wife, Kimberly? Is it a mother, Kimberly? Or any possibility in between? It is relevant at this point. But I see now that there's a place named Kimberly elsewhere. I have a different moment in time with a man who said he had a wife, Kim, and 2 daughters. Incredibly significant, whatever. And the god Thor refers to himself as Dinah in the movie. Again, holding an umbrella of Disney. And then going to like Harry Potter with Dolores Umbridge and One Must Not Lie. And then there's porcelain on the walls of all different pedigree cats. It seems like really significance at someone's OG, which I just learned what that means. And then knowing they gave me a GOD and not in the new digital realm necessarily, the old-fashioned way, in the original school. But when I go to the MOANA, the Teka, and the Tafiti I am not lost in these lands. I've been trying to figure out why they brought me back to this area. I've read the metal on the ground. and it has awoken a sense of knowledge about my surroundings. Then to see God Thor, that he played in a different role, that one of the, I guess, OGs bestowed upon him as casting him for this role of importance. And then putting him in this more serious Kimberly type fashion role of hardened mercenary, which I don't know what that means or looks like. So it was a real eye opener in the home or in the residence. I'm still under this other umbrella. Um, and when I read the beginning of this, there's two chief ancestors speaking. And then I look today to the chief in the commander-in-chief role of this and what he is saying on the um, for ancestral guidance in where and what I'm supposed to be. And I'm realizing a broader picture that someone has painted, taken the time to paint. And then the interactive feature. Um, in theater, and it says thematic on this particular whatever movie, box office movie. I don't even know if it's in the box office. I found it. It's called Extraction, and it's a troubled soldier for hire is sent to rescue a drug lord's kidnapped son. But as the boy gets under his skin, the question becomes who's saving who. Um, and this came out in 2020, but this is on the Netflix. I don't know how theater is working these days. I don't have money to really go to the theater. I mean, I went just recently for 2 movies, but only with the assistance of Lewis.
প্রমাণ দাও প্রমাণ টেকা
Teka.
প্রমাণ প্রমাণ দাও টেকা.
He wants proof. One wants money and one wants proof. So I'm looking to Disney at the moment. They put it in a script. And then they asked my son to perform this script in the local area, which I spoke to one of the other fathers on my footpath. He's more well off than I am at the moment, about how his daughter's education is. And I asked at Language Arts what was being offered for, I was curious. And then I shared with him, in an exchange of trust, again, he has a very specific pedigree of dog, so and I said that's interesting, and that my son mentioned when he goes into this middle school, what they were speaking to him were this new allowance of language arts in second position, not in first position, but in second position in New York City. And I'm like, what are they prepping the children for? That's first thought. I'm like, we're still speaking English as a first language. That's a plus. And then there's what's being offered as the second position, language arts. And what does he have access to in where I'm at the moment? These are important, known ongoings. So I'm looking at what if this is proof. And so, and Teka, it says all ancestors in this Moana Junior play that they're putting on. And then they have, for his graduation, they mentioned they're doing a theme of Hawaiian, which again at Ancestors, and knowing I'm the girl with the pearl earring according to English arts, and also Dutch Master Collection of painted whichever at artistry and artwork that had an artwork dealer where I don't know where and what happened between the RH negative that is a requirement for safety and having future on this planet. I don't know what happened to my artwork dealer in my youth. Something happened, was disrupted, and he just disappeared. So it says in the beginning, this is what all the ancestors are technically saying on this Moana Junior. It says in the beginning there was only ocean. And then it says Chief Ancestor 1 says until the goddess Te Fiti used her heart to create islands teeming with life. Chief Ancestor 2, voyagers began to sail. Chief Ancestor 3, the world was theirs to discover. This did not exist in my youth. This is an ongoing Disney corporate relationship thing. However, they're using language as arts to perform whatever gift the ancestors are using to keep peace amongst this class of society, I suppose, would make sense how to linguistically arrange the words. Chief Ancestor 2, but a greedy few sought Te Fiti's heart, wanting to possess the power of creation for themselves. The most Chief Ancestor 1, the most daring of them all, Maui, a shape-shifter, a demigod of the wind and sea, set out for the heart. Chief Ancestor 3, using his magical fishhook, Maui transformed into a hawk, outsmarting his competition and stealing the heart from Te Fiti. Chief Ancestor 1, Maui did not have the heart for long because he was attacked by Teka. No. In this display that I just put on at extraction, it says, and it also translates in English out to extra action, but whatever on that. It's for, I suppose, explaining everyone's parts, since they handle at a 5-letter pattern different, like a different porcelain on the wall of cats. There's on a geographical globe, there's 2 areas that keep coming up with 5-letter patterns with completely different populace. in population. Um, but I see that there's three chief ancestors mentioned for this storyline, about stealing the heart, and then Teka, which one area claims it's money. Um, on Bill Maher on the HBO service yesterday, they had on a man speaking of something that I had never even heard of the crypt, and but now watching this cryptology and this way of storytelling and this way of, and then having to learn what the heads of this like mitigated or washed conversation sounds like. He threw out there this currency in language of OG, and I did not had never heard of that before. So that's some originator. And then there's the mention of, I mean, like again, there's deity somewhere in God, and then they said that it's the prince is the OG, and I'm like, that's interesting. If that's the originator of godly things, how that changes in. So so I watched carefully this other lifestyle that exists somewhere. And again, it almost looked, the opening scene almost looked like the movie may perhaps like Divergent, when there was this whatever. So I'm really careful with how I traverse the Chicago thing with the other, and the way that this is weaved and loomed in some form of tapestry, someone has put together. Um, while I have had trouble with the artwork dealer in the local area, in my ability to get to the RH negative garden for future life of my kind on this planet. They also put on the news the other night, they had mention of the rangers in the parks department, within this territory that's covered by this, where the chief of command is President Joe Biden. Um, and they said that there's a super bloom going on right now. Many different floral arrangements or flowers, but it's a super bloom. And I'm watching the rangers of the park as they look over these things, um, and how they're communicating to their message to the camera. Um, so this is the only, and if I didn't have this script, I wouldn't have known about Taka. Um, I'm going to pause this for a second, and um, I'm going to go back into the other room, and find this HBO mention, as well as something that's going on, um, at the commander in chief level, with what he said, and then with what his, and again, I don't know how to. They said that, how his it's. I was listening to his experts that he speaks with or advises with, Mark Esper. was one of them. Um, and I don't remember the other gentleman's name. Um, and they, the one was saying he doesn't believe it is a bipartisan, um, either bipartisan. He believes it's more of an institutional, um, which I know has great significance at not wanting any great tectonic plate shift, especially with multiple porcelain on the wall and multiple cats on the wall, all different pedigree, um, and keeping many things in mind at all times. So I'm going to pause this for a second. Perhaps I will go to the Harry Potter reference before I go to the real life Commander in Chief mention. So here's the piece on the Harry Potter. It says Dark Arts Defense Basics for Beginners. And it's on something called Bravo.
On, you will be following a carefully structured, ministry-approved course of defensive magic. Yes.
There's nothing in here about using defensive spells?
Using spells? Well, I can't imagine why you would need to use spells in my classroom.
We're not going to use magic.
You will be learning about defensive spells in a secure, risk-free way.
What use is that? If we're going to be attacked, it won't be risk-free.
Students will raise their hands when they speak in my class. It is the view of the ministry that a theoretical knowledge will be sufficient to get you through your examinations, which, after all, is what school is all about.
And how's theory supposed to prepare us for what's out there?
There is nothing out there, dear. Who do you imagine wants to attack children like yourself?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe Lord Voldemort.
Let me make this quite plain. You have been told that a certain dark wizard is at large once again. This is a lie.
It's not a lie. I saw him. I fought him.
Detention, Mr. Potter.
So according to you, Cedric Diggory dropped dead of his own accord.
Cedric Diggory's death was a tragic accident.
It was
Come in. Good evening.
And there again, as they pan out, are all of these porcelain plates of cats on the wall, which I know has significance in whatever. And there seems to be a lot on the plate. Which again, when they speak of NFTs and crypto and these things, which I could not place the conversation at first, I'm like, what? What is an NFT? What are the kids coming up with these days? I mean, again, I'm still at, where did social life go? Where did a career option go? Or where did, I mean, again, when there's such a significant amount of disruption so early on, I mean, I feel like it's almost in this pathway of it doesn't feel like a pathway of possibilities. It really feels like a pathway to a dead end, which then brings up that word extinction. Because if you have a capable body that wanted a capable marriage and capable children, and to leave next generation of showing that we're not going extinct and that we were happening in the correct direction, leading down a dead-end path into extinction, tells a very different, almost bitter tale, which then goes back to a mention that I saw with Brahma and Vimanas, and then that mention of this flying death, or traveling death, goes in. And then I have on this, like by the book text, an actual definition of what an obsidian maze is, which I had never even heard of in real world. I had asked one of my next gens, one of my cosmic creations, if he had heard it in his passing, or his conversations with his age, and he had not heard of it either. Just as a reference in current trends and currency, and trying to find like a pathway to success at this point to lead me to the correct persons. So I'm going to go to what they said on this HBO thing. Now, I listen because clearly Bill Maher is a generation before mine. And I'm listening to where his head is in the conversation. I don't know if he's RH positive or RH negative. I can't decipher the difference from where I sit at the moment, and having no access to anything that would be able to verify where his voice or who he's voicing for. So I'm listening to him, and the next statement he says is kind of concerning about Bud Light. I get why he's saying it. But again, Gen Z might interpret and have feelings on this conversation based on other things that went that are a lot more upsetting. And they grow less forgiving, and that, but again, that's part of where we're at the moment.
This is big news this week. Apparently, Bud Light included a transgender woman in their advertising campaign. This was not okay with MAGA Nation. Well, all the country stars are very upset. Kid Rock is shooting at it. Travis Tritt, he took it out of his rider when he's on tour. John Rich, he took it out of his bar in Nashville. Somebody has to explain to these dumbasses the point of being rich and famous is you don't have to drink Bud Light. We got a great show. We have Piers Morgan and Katie Porter. But first up, he is an actor, writer, and director whose forthcoming book, Easy Money, Cryptocurrency, Casino Capitalism, and the Golden Age of Fraud, comes out in July, and it's available for pre-order now. Ben McKenzie.
So again, Ben McKenzie with Jacob Silverman. It says Cryptocurrency, Casino Capitalism, and the Golden Age of Fraud. Again, I'm not going deep into his conversation. It's out there floating in the universe. I listened to a bit of it. Where I really want to go is when he sits down with the two people and he asks them the first question, and just their initial response to me. It's humbling, to say the least.
Hi, you two. All right, she's the California Congresswoman who recently announced she'll be running for Dianne Feinstein's Senate seat. Her new book, I Swear Politics is Messier Than My Minivan, is out now. Katie Porter is back with us. Hi, Katie. And he is the New York Post columnist and host of Piers Morgan Uncensored on Talk TV and streaming on Fox Nation. Piers Morgan is over here. Piers Morgan. Okay, so I don't know if you've had time to process the story about the 21-year-old who sold our national secrets out online. But I just want to ask one very basic question because I'm reading about this. We're all just learning about this, but these are serious things that are going to get out there. People are probably going to die from this. So it's not like it's nothing. And I'm mad. Who do I blame? Second question has to do with.
No, I mean, look, I think we all should be mad. I think we should be able to count on our secrets being safe. But I think this is a reminder that intelligence is only as good as the people who are running it. And you know, we spend a lot of money in Congress, a lot of taxpayer dollars trying to invest in intelligence gathering and in building these kinds of systems and relationships. But ultimately, there is always a person or people at the end of the day making the decisions. And I think in this case, that person did, sadly, I think, irreparable damage.
It's not more systemic than that. Why a 21-year-old? Now, I read most of the secrets came out, they were from the Pentagon Joint Chiefs of Staff. So the 21-year-old is on an email chain with the Joint Chiefs of Staff.
It's completely insane, isn't it?
Thank you.
All right, now this is what they're saying here. And then his exact words.
And limit access to sensitive documents.
I've instructed the department to make sure that they get to the root of why he had access in the first place, number one. And number two, to focus extensively on the extent to which it all occurred. And that's going on right now.
I think the extent to which it occurred, it seems, again, the conversation goes into a closed circle. And as it goes through these layers of circles, that's part of their freedom of speech that they appreciate and that they want protected and invested in. And then here's how the professionals are commenting.
Questions why the young Air National Guardsman had access to highly classified documents.
No, I cannot think of a compelling reason, and I assume Secretary Austin and Chairman of the Joint Chiefs Milley are probably asking those same questions.
Speaker Kevin McCarthy blamed the Biden administration for the leak and promised congressional action, something that one Democrat on the House Intelligence Committee pushed back on.
These things happen under all presidents. And so if you want to score political points, fine, but let's really focus on the problem here, which is an institutional problem, not a partisan problem.
President.
I thought that was very helpful. At people not even able to get to a Bill Maher interview level of sitting at the desk and being asked a question and just not having the answers, not knowing the conversation, not knowing the answers. And then knowing somewhere in the world, this is still going on at Thunderbirds, and knowing that they each have a different sash that they wear. They're each handling different versions of whatever it is. I mean, they refer to themselves here as the Tracys and as the IR, which they say is International Rescue. So I keep that in mind as well, knowing that I'm not quite sure which one of the sash is the one in charge of the RH negatives and which sash is in charge of RH positives. But knowing that I have a real serious problem with availability and almost like multiple closed doors, which at a group that wears different sash with different colors for whichever they represent. It is something that may be of high interest for them for reporting, for an analysis of something else that might be going on or might not be reporting on correctly. Because again, without seeds, without flowers having seeds, without bees being able to pollinate, without that, then there is no super bloom, there is no garden, there's no flowers. And that's like a basic instinctual right that if one feels called to that level of humanity, and it's being withheld from that, I don't know what level of service to have a conversation with, where it actually is part of the GOD, and if it's handled by an OG based on their local linguistical preference of this morning in some part of thematic. Today how it's star 1978, star 8378, Nicole, Cattaruzza, it's Earth, solar system, Milky Way, universe, galaxies broken. And it's Bayside Station, Bayside, New York, 11361.